Today I'll explain you on the topic of hyperbola. See here, what is the definition? First, let us go through the definition. A hyperbola is the set of all points in a plane, the difference of whose distances from two fixed points in the plane is a constant. Now here we need to stress on the word difference. The difference of whose distances from two fixed points is a constant. Now, if you go through the figure, let me zoom it. In the figure, you can see that I have considered two fixed points, F1 and F2. See here, I have taken F1 and F2. These are the two fixed points. And I have taken another 2 points, P1 and P2 on the hyperbola. Now, the distance P1 F1, this distance P1 F1 minus P1 F2 needs to be equal to P2 F2 minus P2 F1. So that means that the difference of these two distances shall always be a constant. Now, we have certain terms which are associated with a hyperbola. First, the term is foci. The two fixed points, F1 and F2, on the hyperbola, we call them as the foci of the hyperbola. Next, center, which is the center, the midpoint O of the line joining F1, F2. That means OF1, from the figure you can see, OF1 will be equal to OF2. So, we call the point O as the center of the hyperbola. Next, we have the term transverse axis. Now, just like major axis, we have learnt about major axis on the ellipse. Same term used here instead of major axis is the word transverse axis. So, which is the transverse axis? The line which is passing through the two foci. So, in the diagram, you can see the line AB. The line AB is passing through the two foci. This line we call it as the transverse axis. It has the same meaning with the major axis of ellipse. Conjugate axis, perpendicular to transverse axis, passing through the center. You can see the line passing through the center. This is the line which is passing through the center, y-axis. You can see the line passing through the center and it is perpendicular to the major axis. This line we call it as the conjugate axis. Next is the term vertices. The two endpoints of the major transverse axis. That means I am talking about the point A and the point B. These 2 points A and B, we call it as the vertices of the ellipse. Next, we have a relationship between semi-transverse axis, semi-conjugate axis, and the distance between the center and the foci. As we had in ellipse, if you remember, in ellipse, the relationship which we had was c square equals to a square minus b squared. This is the relationship which we had in ellipse, okay, between ABC. Same thing here also, we have a relationship in case of an hyperbola between ABC, and the relationship is c square equals to a square plus b square. Okay, we need this when we do the sums of the exercise. Next, after this, types of hyperbola and their standard equations. The first is horizontal hyperbola. Now, look at the definition. In a horizontal hyperbola, main important point, the two foci should lie on the x-axis. See here, F1, F2 They are lying on the x-axis. So it's important. Whenever you see f1, f2 lying on the x-axis, what do we conclude? It will be a horizontal hyperbola. What is the standard equation of a horizontal hyperbola? X square by a square minus y square by b square equals to 1. Both a and b should be positive. So this is the standard equation for writing a horizontal hyperbola. Now, few formulas associated with horizontal hyperbola. Point number A, coordinate of the foci plus minus c comma 0. Since it is lying on the x-axis, so plus minus c. Coordinate of the vertices plus minus a comma 0. Point number C, ends of the conjugate axis. So I told you earlier, conjugate axis is perpendicular to the transverse axis. So ends of the conjugate axis are 0 comma plus minus b. Point number E, length of the transverse axis twice a. Next, length of the conjugate axis twice b. Same like in ellipse. In ellipse also we had learned length of the major axis twice a, length of the minor axis twice b. Now major axis and minor axis are replaced by transverse axis and conjugate axis. Then the last two, eccentricity E, c by a, and finally length of the latus rectum. What is the length of the latus rectum? 2b square by a. Same as ellipse. Same formula that we have for ellipse also. Twice b square by a. The next type of hyperbola that we have is vertical hyperbola. Now in vertical hyperbola, it's written, you can see, the two foci f1 and f2. If you observe the diagram, you can see the two foci f1 and f2, they lie on the y-axis. Okay, so that means transverse axis will be the y-axis. So whenever foci lies on the y-axis, immediately we come to the conclusion it will be a type of vertical hyperbola. What is the standard equation? Vertical hyperbola, y square by b square minus x square by b square equals to 1. I repeat, y square by a square, okay, a square, minus x square by b square equals to 1. Both a and b are positive. Now, few formulas associated with vertical hyperbola. Coordinates of the foci 0 comma plus minus c, since it is lying on the y-axis. Coordinate of the vertices 0 comma plus minus a. Ends of the conjugate axis plus minus b comma 0. Last four formulae are same. There is no change in the last four. It is same as that of horizontal hyperbola. Length of the transverse axis twice a. Length of the conjugate axis twice b. Eccentricity E c by a. And finally length of the latus rectum 2b square by a. So these are the concepts which are related with hyperbola. What are those? First, what is a hyperbola? How do we draw a hyperbola? Difference of the distances of the points from the two foci should be constant. Next, we have the two types of hyperbola, horizontal and vertical hyperbola, along with their standard equations. Next, let us move to the exercise sums. Exercise 11.4, question number 3. Now, what is the question here? Find the coordinates of the foci, vertices, eccentricity, and latus rectum of the hyperbola. So, 4 things you have to find out. Equation is given to you. So, what is the equation given to us? 9y square minus 4x square equals to 36. First, we divide both sides by 36. We try to arrange it in the standard form. After arranging it in the standard form, we find that the equation has become y square by 4 minus x square by 9 equals to 1. So, which can be compared with the standard equation of a vertical hyperbola. Y square by a square minus x square by b square equals to 1. So, we can compare it with vertical hyperbola. Now, when I compare the denominators of y square of both the equations, see, denominator of y square, both the equations, a square is found to be equal to 4. And hence a will be equal to 2. Same way, if I compare the denominator of x square with the denominator of x square of the other equation, what I find, b square equals to 9, and accordingly the value of b comes out to be 3. So we have the value of a and b with us. Now we can find out the value of c using the formula c equals to root over a square plus b square. So we have three values, a 2, b is 3 and c is root 14. Then we go back to the question. What is in the question given to us if you observe? In the question, first we are asked to find out the coordinates of the foci. Accordingly, we start with point number A. Coordinates of the foci are 0, plus minus c for a vertical hyperbola. We substitute the value of c. So we get the answer 0, plus minus root 13. Again we go back to the question. Vertices is asked. So point number B. Coordinates of the vertices 0, plus minus a. We put the value of a plus minus 2. Third, from the question, third point, eccentricity. So number C, eccentricity. E equals to c by a. We put the value of c and a. Root 13 by 2. And lastly, what is asked in the question? Length of the latus rectum, which is 2b square by a. We put the value of b and a and ultimately we get 9 units. So first few questions, I think first 6 questions. Yeah, I'm right. 6 questions are sums of the similar type. So you can try the rest of the sums. Now let us move to the next question, number 7. Now in question number 7, what is asked? You are asked to find out the equation of the hyperbola. This time, equation is not given to you. Rather, few conditions are given to you. What are the few conditions? Let's check. Vertices plus minus 2, 0. And foci is given to you plus minus 3, 0. Now, first task is to identify the type of hyperbola by looking at the given conditions. Now, if I look at the foci which is given to me in the question, what is the coordinate of foci given? Plus minus 3, 0. Where does it lie? It lies on the x-axis. Now, since it lies on the x-axis, so what can we say? That this is what type of hyperbola? This is a type of horizontal hyperbola. Because we have learned in a horizontal hyperbola, the foci always lies on the x-axis. So once we know that it is a type of horizontal hyperbola, we can write the equation. So let the required equation be x square by a square minus y square by b square equals to 1. Next, we go to the question. According to the question, foci are plus minus 3, 0, which can be compared with plus minus c, 0. Accordingly, we get the value of c 3. Next condition given to us in the question, vertices. Vertices plus minus 2, 0, which can be compared with plus minus a, 0. Thereby, we get the value of a to be 2. Now, we have the value of c and a. Hence, we can calculate the value of b using the formula c square equals to a square plus b square. Now, once we put the values of c and a, we find that the value of b is b square. The value of b square is 5. You can see b square equals to c square minus a square. Last few lines you can see. We have calculated the value of b square 5. Finally, put the value of a, put the value of b square. Where are we going to substitute this? Back in equation 1. In equation 1 we substitute and we get the answer x square by 4 minus y square by 5 equals to 1. Okay, so the final equation is x square by 4 minus y square by 5 equals to 1. Next, number 11. Foci is given to us plus minus 0 comma plus minus 13. Conjugate axis is given to us of length 24. Here also we are asked to find the equation of the hyperbola. Now, same way the introduction shall be. First, objective to identify the type of hyperbola. Looking at the foci. Now, what is the foci? Where does the foci lie? The foci, you can see it lies on the y-axis. What is the coordinate of the foci given to us? 0 comma plus minus 13, which lie on the y-axis. Hence, the hyperbola will be a vertical hyperbola. Once we are sure what type of hyperbola which will be, we can write the standard equation. The standard, let the required equation be y square by a square minus x square by b square equals to 1. Give it equation number 1. Now, we come back to the question. Foci are 0 comma plus minus 13, which can be compared with the formula 0 comma plus minus c. Therefore, the value of c is 13. So, we have the value of c. Next, we go to the second point. What is the second point given to us? Length of the conjugate axis. The length of the conjugate axis is given to us 24. 24. So, length of the conjugate axis is 24, which means twice b will be equals to 24. Because we have the formula, length of the conjugate axis. What is the formula? Twice b. So, twice b equals to 24, which means b equals to 12. Which means b equals to 12. Next, we have calculated the value of b. We know the value of c. So, what is left out? To find out a square. How shall we find out a square? Using the formula c square equals to a square plus b square. So, we put the value of a and b. We put the value of c and b. And we get the value of a square. Last step, we put back the value of a square. That means a square, what we got? 25. What is the value of b? 12 in equation 1. And we get the final equation as y square by 25 minus x square by 12 square equals to 1. That means y square by 25 minus x square by 144 equals to 1, which is the required equation. Next, number 13. In question number 13 also, what are the conditions given to us? Foci plus minus 4, 0. Length of the lattice rectum is given to us 12 units. We are asked also here to find out the equation of the hyperbola. So, let us identify the type of hyperbola. First, foci. If you look at the foci, where does the foci lie? On the x-axis. So, that means it's understood it will be a horizontal hyperbola. Once we are sure what type of hyperbola it is a horizontal hyperbola. So, we write the equation of the horizontal hyperbola. X square by a square minus y square by b square equals to 1. Give it equation number 1, leave it. Then, we go back to the question. According to the question, foci is plus minus 4, 0, which can be compared with plus minus c, 0. So, if you compare, we get the value of c as 4. Next condition given to us. Length of the lattice rectum is 12. Now, what is the formula of lattice rectum? We know. Twice b square by a equals to 12. Cross multiply, we get b square equals to 6a. Give it equation number 2, leave it. Next step. In place of b square, we are putting c square minus a. How did we put? From the relationship that we know, c square equals to a square plus b square. See, from here what will we get? B square, c square minus a square. Then put the value of c. What is the value of c? 4. Put it. So you will be getting a quadratic equation. So what is the quadratic equation? A square plus 6a minus 16 equals to 0. Now we want to factorize the terms. See, a square plus 6a minus 16 equals to 0. If we factorize it, we shall be getting two values of a. One will be either a equals to 2 or a equals to minus 8. Now, a means what? It is semi-transverse axis, which is a length. Length can never be negative. So we are rejecting a equals to minus 8. You should know the reason. Why are we rejecting a equals to minus 8? Now these values a, b, c, they can never be negative. They are lengths. So negative 1 we have to reject. We are going to accept the positive value. That means a equals to 2. Finally, last two steps left out. We put the value of a in equation number 2. Check out what is equation number 2. B square equals to 6a. So we put the value of a. We get the value of b square, 12. Next task, the last task, put the value of a once again and the value of b square, that means 12, in equation 1, and we finally get the equation of the hyperbola. X square by 4 minus y square by 12 equals to 1. One more question, the last sum, question number 15. Here also we are asked to find the equation of the hyperbola. What are the conditions given to us? Foci 0, plus minus root 10. And it says that, the question says that the hyperbola is passing through the point 2, 3. Now, since the foci lies on the y-axis, this foci lie on the y-axis, so we understand that it will be a vertical hyperbola. Accordingly, we take the standard equation to be y square by a square minus x square by b square equals to 1. Give it equation number 1, leave it. Now, we come back to the question. Foci 0, plus minus root 10, which can be compared with 0, plus minus c. Hence, we get the value of c, root 10. So, value of c calculated. Now, next step, we are going to use the second condition. It is mentioned in the question that the hyperbola passes through 2, 3. So, what we are going to do is that in equation 1, we are going to put in place of x and y these values 2 and 3. So, thereby we get the equation 9 by a square minus 4 by b square equals to 1. Then, next step, I'll just zoom it and I'll show you. Next step, what we are doing, wait, let me zoom it a bit. Please wait. Yeah. So, what is the equation? We have 9 by a square minus 4 by b square equals to 1. After that, in place of b square, we use the formula, the relationship, and we put c square minus a square in place of b square. Because we already know what is c square. We know c square equals to a square plus b square. In case of hyperbola, we know this. So, we are going to put this relationship here. Next, in place of c square, we are going to put 10 because we have already calculated earlier c is root 10. Thereafter, we take LCM. In the next step, we have taken LCM. Denominator a square into 10 minus a square. It is the LCM. After taking LCM, we cross multiply we cross multiply. See, after cross multiplying, what is the equation we are getting? Last line you can see. After simplifying, cross multiplication and then simplification is done. And then we get an equation a to the power 4 minus 23a square plus 9t equals to 0. Next step, we go for the middle term factorization. Middle term factorization we do. After that, after doing middle term factorization, we have two factors, a square minus 18 and one more, a square minus 5, which gives us two values of a square. There are two values of a square. You can check at the top. You can see the arrowhead. At the top, what we get? A square equals to 18 or a square equals to 5. Now, one by one, we are going to consider the case. When a square equals to 18. So, when a square equals to 18, what will be b square? C square minus a square, substitute the value. We get b square to be minus 8, which is not possible. How come it is not possible? B square minus 8. Square of a number can never be negative. Square of a number can never be negative. Hence, we reject b square equals to minus 8. So, a square equals to 18 also rejected, gone. What is the last value of a square we have? A square equals to 5. Let us consider this now. So, when a square equals to 5, the calculated value of b square comes out to be c square minus a square. C square is 10. We have calculated earlier in the previous steps. 10 minus 5 gives us 5. So, final step, we put a square equals to 5. B square also we know we have calculated 5. In equation number 1, the main equation of hyperbola. And final equation, what do we get? Y square by 5 minus x square by 5 equals to 1. So these are the few sums which I have done from 11.4. You please do the sums in your copy. Also do the remaining sums. Okay. So that's all. Thank you.